Okay, so
Yeah.
when you talk about Figment and their role kind of in this as providing infrastructure, what kinds of infrastructure are necessary, and you know, which of those pieces does Figment kind of fulfill?
For sure, yeah. So one of the big changes I mentioned earlier was we thought there would be this big change to this concept of called proof of stake.
Yeah.
At the time, Bitcoin worked on proof of work, and it will probably forever. Ethereum still works on proof of work, but it's transitioning to this technology. Our big bet was that there would be more than just those blockchains. They'd all use this new proof of stake technology. Speaking of incentive design, there's a role within these systems for the people that actually provide the infrastructure or servers to it, which is called a validator. And I can kind of get into the details there. Suffice to say, maybe an analogy is imagine you're a credit card processing network like Visa or MasterCard. And when you swipe your credit card, that transaction goes through, and there's a network which verifies that it's valid, and you get a response back, good or bad. In blockchain protocols, it's not a company. It's not, MasterCard. It's actually companies like Figment. We are one of many entities in a sort of a peer-to-peer or distributed or decentralized network who are verifying these transactions. Our job is to make sure that, yes, this account which wants to spend these funds has the funds, and they can make the transfer. So that's maybe one way to think about it. Is in proof of stake networks, there is a group of people who are the sort of infrastructure providers. Our job is to validate, we're validators, that all these transactions are valid. And so similar to when you swipe your credit card with a MasterCard or Visa, the merchant takes a fee. There's a transaction fee. In most of these blockchains, there is a transaction fee as well. And so that transaction fee is what is shared with people like Figment. So our business model is essentially we earn transaction fees the more people use blockchains.
And you, because you believe, so you're acting as validators on proof of stake networks because of your belief in that the world is going to see a proliferation of blockchains, and specifically of proof of stake blockchains. Your part of your job or your goal is to become validators on as many of those proof of stake blockchains as you can, or how do you make decisions on which ones you want to be validators for?
Yeah, great question. So today we operate on 50 different networks. And the way I think about this, there's a few different models we could take to it. One is to be very selective, almost like a VC, and pick the winner in each category and just, let's be on a handful, 5 to 10. We've taken a very different approach, a much more promiscuous approach, to say we're not going to try to pick winners. Instead, we're going to be like Charlie Munger and try to avoid the clear losers. Let's try not to be dumb and try to be smart. The reason for that is the stage we're in is these are all just things that are launching. So, to kind of tie it back to VC, we have more of like, do you remember 500 startups when they came out with sort of like this spray and pray model? It's like that. And so, from a operational perspective, what does that mean for our business? We need a pretty large DevOps team that can go and try to figure all these things out and try to stand up, networks. And so that strategy has mostly worked. If you look at our business, the way which networks we earn money on is of course has a distribution which looks like a power law. Or at least 80-20 type of distribution. There's a handful of networks that currently have most of the returns for us. However, our ability to predict those ahead of time is very low. And even today is very low. It's unclear which ones are going to work. Last year, Solana came on into the scene and became a very popular network. But in 2020, that was not obvious. But that's when we adopted the network. And that's when we started running on it. So that's a bit how we think about this process.